In news coming out today, Saturday the 29th of June, it appears that Leeds United may be on the verge of selling Archie Gray and Charlie Cresswell in the coming days. More on that in a sec. Hi folks, Jay here with an impromptu Saturday stream. I don't normally do these, but given the circumstances and the information that's come out this evening, I thought I'd jump on and get some news out for those people who don't have access to Twitter and are trying to find their way through the meltdown that appears to be happening right now. But we'll get to the information. Some of the reaction is absolutely legitimate, so we'll get to that reaction in a sec. We'll just start off by giving you the basic detail on this and what's come out today from two separate journalists. David Ornstein at The Athletic has broken a story that Archie Gray could be on his way out of Leeds United before the 30th of June PSR deadline, which is 24 hours away. And Adam Pope has broken news that Charlie Cresswell could also be on his way out of Leeds, although not immediately. We assumed that from reports from Ben Jacob earlier last month that Leeds United might just hang on to Archie Gray. As Ben said, there were clubs that were interested in him, but all of those clubs that were interested in the player were also minded that the player himself was probably better at Leeds for his development, getting game time and not sitting on a bench. Those clubs, the bigger clubs, the Liverpools, the Dortmunds, the Newcastles, the Chelseas, all appeared to be holding their powder and keeping it dry while they waited to see what happened. And Brentford appeared to have stolen a march in the 12th hour to get this one done. Ornstein at The Athletic said that Gray is set for a medical 24 hours before the PSR deadline of June the 30th kicks in. It looked as though Leeds had done enough in the previous days to avoid any major sales, but it now appears that due to the PSR situation, Leeds will have to sell someone, and it looks like that's going to be Archie Gray. Ornstein did point out that a host of clubs are interested in Gray and are watching Gray, but that Brentford are the ones that have made the move for the player. Brentford are expected to reach an agreement with Leeds United for the sale of Archie Gray for £35 million. And although there is other interest, it is only Brentford currently that have bid on the player. It also appears that this is a PSR situation and not an all-up finance situation. Once the 30th of June deadline passes, you go back to a new cycle and Leeds are in a position to start buying players then. But they may have sold one of their up-and-coming and one of their own a little bit prematurely in this situation. Leeds were expected to sell Willie Gnonto and Chris Somerville as the two major assets this summer that would hopefully have set off any PSR concerns that they had before that deadline. Although there had been some form of informal bids put in for both of those players last month, it now appears that they're not going anywhere just yet, and Leeds are now looking in a situation where Archie Gray is the only offer on the table and he may need to go in order to balance the books. From a PSR perspective, and purely from a PSR perspective, this delivers 100% profit for Leeds. But in this situation, who cares, I suppose. Archie's made 28 appearances for Leeds last season, was a Young Player of the Year, was in the EFL Team of the Year, the Young Player of the Year for the EFL, and had a fantastic season playing out of position at right back. But Leeds' failure to win promotion to the Premier League, along with a reduction in the parachute payments next season, means Leeds are going to have to balance their finances to not be in breach of PSR and to avoid a points deduction next season. As a homegrown player marks a pure profit sale, and Parag Marathe refused to rule out the sale of Archie Gray over a month ago when he was doing his interviews at the back end of the season. At that situation, what Marathe said was that he couldn't rule out anything at that time and that trade-offs would be needed to be had in order for Leeds to balance the books from a PSR perspective, but that Leeds would be right on the cusp of PSR in order to be the most competitive side that they could possibly be. This situation may just show the San Francisco 49ers what an angry Leeds United fanbase really looks like for the first time. The reaction to this potential sale online is loud and is angry at this. Selling one of your own and a player with the ceiling that Archie Gray has won't and isn't going down well. Leeds sold Finlay Gorman to Manchester City for £5 million a couple of months ago, a player that was named as a generational talent. Archie Gray also falls into that bracket of a generational talent, and he is now also being sold. Two players that you would hope Leeds would develop long term and keep the club moving in the right direction. On the situation, Ben Jacobs himself has said on X.com, Archie Gray himself is said to be very happy at Leeds and isn't looking to move away and isn't pushing for this move to Brentford. However, he does also say that the terms that have been offered by Brentford are excellent and that Leeds have made it clear that they will need to sell for this PSR deadline. On the Charlie Cresswell situation, Adam Pope has messaged on X.com to say that reports are stating that Charlie Cresswell is set to complete a move on a permanent basis to French Ligue 1 side Toulouse, and that is set to go through next week once a medical is completed. That suggests, from a Charlie Cresswell perspective, that one isn't related to PSR, but that's just a sale the club are looking to do, and that will happen potentially next week. Charlie Cresswell has 3 years left on his deal and made 14 appearances last season after falling out with manager Daniel Farke. On this situation, I've said this an awful lot around the Charlie Cresswell situation. I don't get the rush to sell a player who we had bids for £5 million in January, and now we're looking at £3 million at the end of the season. We've lost money on the Mark Rocket sale, although we may not book a loss in terms of PSR. Has been said very well on Twitter, Leeds are in a situation where selling prize assets, not just Leeds, it should be said, all clubs are in a situation now where they're now being forced to sell young prize assets to other clubs in order to tick a box from an accounting perspective. And the PSR situation is forcing clubs who should be growing their players from a homegrown perspective and staying with their local clubs to help those clubs to improve and get better. They're all now being forced to sell these players because they represent 100% profit. I'm in favour of the PSR or the FFP rules as a top line, but there are some situations within that need to change from an accounting perspective, having to sell young players. And you've seen it with Aston Villa and Chelsea. We've seen an awful lot of clubs selling between themselves to avoid situations with FFP in the Premier League. Leeds are now in a weird situation where Archie Gray could leave for 35 million. Now, there's different ways to look at this from an immediate and an emotional perspective. Anger is the obvious emotion of choice that is doing the rounds. I would agree with it to a degree. I think I'd be very frustrated at the fact that Leeds are looking at selling Archie Gray, a player who we've only had 12 months of really as a first team player, and we're looking forward to seeing as a mainstay in the centre of the park for Leeds next season. Charlie Cresswell, again, another young player that's come through the ranks at Leeds, also leaving, but not just yet, and not for PSR rules, but again, a situation where a falling out with a manager who might be out of a job in 12 months' time if things don't go their way for Leeds. I just think it's a very reactive decision to sell Charlie Cresswell and not just sit and wait, loan him out to Toulouse for a season, let him see how it goes. He's got 2 years on his deal. When he comes back, then you can sell him if you have to. Then if there's a different manager in place by that stage, maybe that new manager would want to have Charlie in his team. On the Archie Gray situation, selling your own never goes down well, and it won't go down well, especially with the Gray family and the dynasty that they are producing at the club, with Harry, his younger brother. Andrew also was involved with the club as well, so a huge lineage of Grays at the club, and this won't go down particularly well. If the 49ers, who appear to have their ear to the ground when it comes to fan reaction, will see what's happening online very quickly. The short version of a way out of this is that Archie rejects personal terms, kicks the can down the road for 24 hours, and the deadline passes and he doesn't go. But that could mean that Leeds then walk into facing a points deduction next season, which may or may not matter depending how big it is and how good Leeds are on the park next season. But as for right now, this is a tough one. It's a PSR decision. The timing makes it very clear that it's a PSR decision, and it will move quickly. Whether other clubs get involved in it at this stage now remains to be seen. He's going to Brentford for 35 million. Likelihood of any future move after that will be in excess of 35 million. And we've spoken before about big clubs looking to buy the next set of generational talents early to avoid paying huge money like Erling Haaland's money when he went to Manchester City. So it's not a great situation. It's going to develop over the next 24 hours. We have to keep an eye on that. There won't be anything tomorrow, but if anything major happens tomorrow, I'll cover it. If not, it'll be mentioned in the news on Monday. But it's going to be an interesting 24 hours. If you're not into the negative reactions, stay off X or Twitter or whatever you're calling it. If you're really annoyed and you want to vent your frustrations, then that's the place to go. There you go. But outside of that, it's a really tough decision. I'm not in favour of this at all. I think it's a bad call, but I think it's being forced by the fact that there's no other offers for big players on the tables right now, and Archie Gray looks like the only one with an offer on the table and a player that represents pure profit football, moving away from being about football and now being around accountancy. It's a tough one. Folks, I'll be back on Monday morning for more Leeds news. Try and enjoy the rest of your day if you can and your weekends. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.